Welcome back. I'm Chris Campbell, and now it's time for What's Bugging Us here at Baker. I'm joined by Cyrus the Virus Oliver and Tricia Shelton. And today's show, you know what we're mad about this week? If anybody, this 150 celebration has gone off the wall. It's now 2008, and the 150th celebration is over with. It's completely done. But when you think about it, last week we had a lunch, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had a lunch.
Well, we couldn't show up.
Well, you know, the school had a lunch. Okay. And with this lunch, they passed out these cards. I happen to have one right here. Tricia?
Yes?
Virus? Okay. I want you guys to zoom in on this sucker right here. You see that? See that? Look at that. Look at that. Okay? These things cost like $5 a piece.
Now, how do you know that?
Well, I looked at them once in a while. But the whole thing is the school spent $5 a piece on each of these things, and everybody knows as you walked in, you got one, right? What the heck? $5 a piece?
Now, how many people did we have at that lunch? Anyways,
there had to be. I mean, it was free lunch. I mean, who's not going to go to a free lunch?
And the thing is, I mean, I think the thing that people are complaining about is, yeah, they're spiffy cards, and it's celebrating Baker's 150th birthday. It's a big deal, but that money could have been spent on something better. I mean, look at this. I mean, let's be honest. Look at this.
Come on.
We could have
time.
But, I mean, are we sure that they spent $5 a piece?
Well, you know, it had to be a range around like 3 to 5, and you're thinking about it, you know, $3 to $5. Seriously, Virus, I mean, $3 to $5 on a card. I mean, this 150 celebration has gone off the wall.
Well, even if it was 50 cents, it's too
Seriously,
much.
it's too much. It's just too much.
Well, maybe you're just being a cheapskate.
Oh.
That's true.
No.
No,
my
she has a
tuition
point.
went to this money. I spent good money to have this.
Well, you seem to be getting a lot of enjoyment out of it.
I better get my enjoyment out of it. This is $5 a pop. All right, anyway, since we're all, you know, ticked off about the 150th celebration, we're going to move on to something a little more subtle, student living. And since you guys have issues with student living, I'll hand it over to you, Tricia, and see maybe what your issue is with it.
Okay, well, my issue is that now they are changing the rules to live in sorority or fraternity houses because I was able to move into my sorority house after the first semester I had here at Baker. And I did have a lot of credit hours because I transferred in. However, I didn't have a lot of hours at Baker because I'd only been here for one semester. It used to just be that the rule was you had to have 30 hours total after interterm to be able to move in for the spring semester at a sorority or fraternity house. Now, as I understand, they're changing it to be 30 hours at Baker, and it has to be prior to interterm, which means that our bills are going to go up because we count on girls being able to move in, and when they change these rules, I don't think they take into account that we need the money of those girls living there or else we have to pay more.
Wow. That is pretty harsh. With all those numbers, I went cross-eyed. Virus.
Well,
what's your situation?
Well, yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Tricia said, and I've been talking to guys at all the frat houses around here. They all agree. How are they going to, it's hard enough to make ends meet as it is, and now even if somebody just transfers in, you have to have 30 Baker credit hours in order to join a house. And what is it for? What, the new dorms? Just because we have new dorms, we have to have all these transfer students and freshmen go there, and it's unfair to the sororities and frat houses for certain. I don't know, is there any question about it at all?
Well, I mean, I can't really imagine that anyone wants to live in the dorms, especially after that segment on Channel 4.
Yeah. Or the mold everywhere. It's just
Mold menace.
Let's not kid ourselves. Let's face the facts. I mean, you're forcing people to live in turmoil.
Good point, Virus. Good point. Well, as you guys notice, with both segments this week, both arguments this week, obviously it's Baker University has an issue with taking money from us. They just want to snag up our money and use it for things like this. Unbelievable. Well, that's it for this week. What's bugging us here at Baker? Tune in next week where I'll just get madder.
Thanks, guys. Now we're going to go to Alex Dingman, who has a story on a student here at Baker, Greg Rogers.
College is difficult for every student. However, Greg Rogers has a unique obstacle, but he doesn't let it slow him down.
It's interesting because before I first had Greg as a student in class, I had a little bit of anxiety about whether I was going to be able to provide him with everything he needed and also the amount of work it would take on my part to help out a student who was sight impaired. But it actually turned out it was within a couple of weeks of the beginning of Introduction to Business when he was a freshman, I really forgot about the fact he was blind.
obviously I fit into the disability category. And, I had to, generally every semester, what I'll do is I'll meet with my professors, just, hey, I'm blind, I'm going to be in your class, here's how to adapt, and it's really not as bad as you might think.
Well, I've had Greg in several courses, and it's been a really interesting experience. Some students are more visual learners, some are auditory learners, and Greg definitely fits into the category of an auditory learner. I use PowerPoint a lot in my classes, and from the very first class that I had Greg in, which was Introduction to Business when he was a freshman, I had to keep in mind that he wasn't going to be able to see all the information that I had on the PowerPoint. Greg is really great too about working with his faculty. So things like, I can email him handouts, he can email his homework to me, I can provide feedback that I email to him.
Well, all my research is done via the internet. So, I try not to use printed textbooks as much as online magazines, online journals, online books. Good old Google. Gotta love Google.
Because he has been an auditory learner since he was a little kid, he has a memory that you just can't believe. And if for instance, when I had him in business law, I would be talking to him a month after I had talked about a certain court case in class, and he would remember every nuance of the court case, because he can, to a much greater extent than students with sight, his memory skills are so honed, and his auditory skills, that he just remembers every nuance of everything that you say in class. So he's actually got some advantages over other students.
Oh, one of the things I like doing, I'm an avid sports fan. Lee Green can tell you in the business department, baseball, football, basketball, I even watch a little bit of NASCAR and a little bit of hockey. A lot of times I'll determine, the play-by-play announcers on TV will tell you enough to know what's going on. In addition, sometimes you can even judge what happens before the announcers say anything because of crowd noise.
One of the interesting things about Greg is that, he's on track to graduate in 4.5 years. And he's completing all these business classes. He is just as well prepared in terms of vocation for a career after college or graduate school. I know he's given some thought to going to law school. He's just as well prepared as any other student. And because of his special kind of learning abilities, they always say anybody with any kind of challenge has some other area that sort of makes up for it, balances out. And because of the fact he is such a strong learner, I think he may excel even beyond some other students when he graduates.
You just have to obviously make the social connection yourself. You just have to show them that you're just a down-to-earth individual just like they are. Because, let's face it, if I'm in a different situation, I'm a little bit uncomfortable too, So it's kind of like, what do? The average sighted person might say, well, what do I do with a blind guy? How do I approach him? Just come up to me just like any other person. Stick out your hand, let me know your hand's out there, I'll shake it. So I guess that'd be my best advice. Just treat me like anyone else.
I'm Alex Dingman for KNBU TV.
Thanks for that, Alex. And now we're going to send it to Tricia Shelton with a feature on the language tables.
Some Baker students have found a way to spice things up in the cafeteria by adding a little Spanish flair to their meal. Not with food, but with conversation. Each Wednesday, several BU students join together at the Spanish language table.
I think it's just kind of fun to be able to chat and speak Spanish and improve my grammar.
The table is open to anyone with an interest in the language, fluent or beginner.
Many students at the beginning levels are intimidated. They don't want to come. They should, because they don't have to say anything. They can just listen. So anybody that wants to even just listen is welcome to come by.
In fact, it's even said that taking this time to speak the language outside of the classroom is crucial for foreign language success at all levels.
I studied abroad in Spain last year, so I use it as kind of a good way to keep up the Spanish. But more importantly, I live off campus, so it's free food.
Besides the free meal, students and professors say there are many benefits to attending the language tables each week.
I think that the language tables are a really good idea. I'm actually a big proponent for encouraging our language department and really expanding it. And so any excuse to practice language and speaking outside of class, I think, is really, really important to somebody who wants to learn a language.
The language department at Baker also offers the same lunchtime opportunity to students of other languages.
There's all the languages, French, German, and Spanish.
For students looking to feed their stomachs and their brains at the same time, these language tables hit the spot. Tricia Shelton, KNBU TV.